Hi again. Welcome back to another episode of Research Yourself Before You Discourse Yourself. I think it's somewhere around those lines. So in this video, we're gonna talk about the history of taxes, even before the 1900s began, maybe and how the taxes increased over time as presidents actually changed on those policies or codes. That's number one. Number two, we can talk about tariffs, more specifically a perspective that I might have a tad bit of experience due to computer hardware. I'm a guy who builds computers on the side. This is one topic I can share with you if a viewer like you at home may be impacted by any type of tariff that you may experience. Number three, if you live in a red district, here are some things that you can do to reach out and lend a helping hand to elect a better candidate or a better congressperson to make sure that this person goes to Washington, D.C. to do a better job, better than the predecessor. That person has not even shown up to a town hall. And number four, protests. As long as you, the viewer, can do it peacefully, get involved and be sure that you keep yourself safe, meet up another person so you can actually have some good discourse, some good conversations, and hopefully not some hostile ones when you do. But let's go ahead and get right into it. Oh, and don't mind Omni because he's part of the computer, so just ignore him. But I do want to mention about this little screenshot here. Somebody from X decided to post this screenshot about historical highest marginal income taxes, but to highlight the years, we're talking about all the years from 1936 to 1980. Those were the influential presidents that have considered what types of taxes can we consider raising to better the future of America. And I think maybe normal everyday people are probably upset about their riches at the time, for those who are making so much money, and they probably have no idea what to do with the money that they have earned. The income taxes that they make off their jobs and everything else in between will go towards that specific percentage according to the year that they have made, I guess, so to speak. So that's just one. Who started raising taxes like this? So from 1932 to 1945, we did this. March 14, 1933 to April 12, 1945. That is Franklin D. Roosevelt. The good old FDR, who understood about the Great Depression, and he had to combat that. But given that we have a president who doesn't understand the meanings of tariffs right now, we'll get that discussion in a moment. This is the guy who got out of the Great Depression due to these taxes at the time. I think my last episode was I think there was a billionaire at the time, but I don't think he made that much money enough to don himself a billionaire. So there are actually two billionaires. The first is John D. Rockefeller and Henry Ford. John D. Rockefeller owns Standard Oil Company, which is of course how you gonna get your gas all over the country. And Henry Ford is Ford Motor Company, in which you are familiar with. The automobile company makes all the good old cars and trucks and some hybrid vehicles that you have. Their net worth at the time depends on the billionaire. John D. Rockefeller in the 1930s was 1.4 billion. Henry Ford, 14.6 billion in 1947. At the time, I don't know if there was a billionaire tax. Yeah, I'm not even sure if there's a billionaire tax that existed at the time. I don't know, man. Interesting. Alright. During the Great Depression, FDR's New Deal programs put millions of jobless Americans back to work and stabilized the economy. As his programs provided pensions to those who could not work. However, the government needed new taxes to pay for these programs. The Revenue Act of 1935 puts a new progressive tax, the wealth tax, in place. Those making more than $5 million a year were taxed up to 75%. Unlike their Civil War grandparents, the wealthy were not happy to pay income taxes during crisis times. Oh my god. Loopholes in the tax code were used. Alright, what are the tax codes that apparently they were manipulated by? Tax code, the official body of tax laws and regulations. So, when Donald Trump was talking about tax cuts, this is a reduction in the amount of taxes taken by the government. Oh boy. Tax evasion, a failure to pay, or a deliberate underpayment of taxes. You fucking rich assholes, I swear. I wonder if any normal everyday person can actually use these tax definitions to pressure the government so they can actually understand what they're doing. Oh wait, hey look, tariff, a tax on products imported from foreign countries. Guys, come on, it's there. IRS even gives the definition for you guys. That's so simple. Victory tax of 1942. So FDR proposed Revenue Act of 1942, introduced the broadest and most progressive tax in American history, the victory tax. Now about 75% of American workers would pay income taxes. Because so many citizens paid the tax, it was considered a mass tax. To ease workers' burdens, paying a large sum once a year, and to create a regular flow of revenue into the U.S. Treasury, the government required employers to withhold money from employees' paychecks. Additional taxes were put in place in 1943. By war's end, in 1945, about 90% of America's workers submitted income tax forms and 60% paid taxes on their income. The federal government covered more than half its expenses with new income tax revenue. Holy crap, FDR was freaking smart, man. Oh, dude, this is what people were hoping for when Joe Biden was president, around the only term that he had to serve. But unfortunately, I don't think Biden even followed through with that. But he only increased the tax for from 15 to 21% on billionaires. But correct me, I might be talking out of my ass at this one.
What is your reaction to the fact that you see a lot of the billionaires coming in? I mean, you didn't have any billionaires, right? And here we got, I think, somewhere up to 14, 15 billionaires running the United States government.
We have 1,000 billionaires, man. You know what their average tax they pay? Average federal tax? 8.2%. 8.2%. If you're working on a diner, you're paying a hell of a lot higher federal tax than that. So look, I just think that Americans are beginning to catch on to what's going on. And I think that's why you're going to see a lot of what we've been able to get done. I don't think you're going to see the Republicans get rid of it. They're going to figure out their public's not going to like them getting rid of it. For example, last time this guy was president, he created the largest deficit than any president in modern history, number one. And number two, he and Herbert Hoover, the only two people ever came in with more jobs than they went out with. They lost more jobs. I mean, the system isn't working, but we're going to see what happens. See how he responds.
But hey, this is a most critical piece of information for those who really need some history, according to FDR. But after FDR came Harry S. Truman. Harry S. Truman's time was 8 years as well. We're going back to the screenshot. 45 to 53. It was still at 94% at the highest. And then when he left office, it was at 92. Some of the marginal percentages were kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. Some of the wealthy families were kind of complaining about how much percentage of taxes they were paying. But hey, this is what they're getting. It's just amazing to me that some of these rich people have no idea how to behave if you don't know how to help your people, the American people, your whole nation. And especially if you live in a very big old mansion that you have no idea how to meet other people, you're probably missing out on the reality of other normal everyday people face, including myself. But thanks to the wonders of internet, the internet always wins. We find pieces of information here as of 2025. So who came after Truman? Ike Eisenhower, the only Republican who actually gave a damn about taxes. From 1953 to 1961, he kept it consistent. Well, except for maybe 92%, so from 92 to 91%. That's actually a good call from him, especially because he was a military leader. You gotta give it up to Ike Eisenhower because he served World War II and he understood the consequences of that war. And apart from all the bullshit that he had to go through, going through higher ranking positions, nuclear weapons were involved, which means okay, how are you gonna fund your defense? In Ike's 2 terms, he has to consider how are you gonna defend America with all the protections that he's gonna have to do, especially when he was the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of NATO. There are dangers as soon as he left the presidency, watch how much you spend, because it's going to take a very wrong turn if people are going to look at this and say, hey, what the hell are we fucking doing, spending all this money on military operations and shit. After Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, though he was assassinated, was still focused on the taxes that he was in only for 2 years. 91%. He just kept it consistent after Eisenhower just left office. Yes, he was assassinated. Lee Harvey Oswald is this dude right here. And he was shot and killed by Jack Ruby. This dude right here from Dallas, an American nightclub owner. Really? You know, Wikipedia, the most donated encyclopedia that we can all use, is pretty important for like politics. If you guys want to go back to like the easy mode, if you want to look up some information right here. Lyndon B. Johnson had 2 terms as well, 1963 to 1969. So the taxes started to reduce from 1963 to 1964. So 77% and then 70, but then it went back up to 75. That's kind of weird. I don't know how. Like 1967 to 1968 was like the most awkward raise of taxes because wait, I guess Johnson somehow found something that kind of went awkward or sideways, but the Vietnam War existed, race riots, skepticism, and he had to like rerun for re-election. Holy crap. Remember, Civil Rights Act of 1964 happened at that time too. After him, President Nixon. Oh, he only got a little bit of one term. That's it. He didn't last very long. 69 to 74, it was on average like 70% income tax. Can't believe it's a California native. War on cancer? Oh, that's fucking bullshit, dude. Ugh. Hey, teenagers can vote from 21 to 18 in the 26th Amendment. So anybody who's 18 right now can register to vote at this moment, at this time, as of this recording. Be sure that you ask your parents to make sure that you are registered to vote. Be careful on how you associate yourself with the party that you intend to join. I believe that your party will reflect on the decisions that the administration will impact your life, and that will leave a scarring impression of what they are trying to do for you, or they will turn against you if like they don't promise anything to you. Hopefully, like with so many people in the United States, there's like 334 million people in the nation, that many people are not really participating. But should they find out that they are being affected by the administration's policies, they need to find out right away and see what they can do to like make things right for themselves. After Nixon, we got Gerald Ford.
Go right in, Mr. President. Go in, right in, hey, relax, have fun. Excuse me. Who are you? And who are those people? I'm his representative. You know who that is there? That's former President Gerald Ford there.
It doesn't look like Gerald Ford.
Well, have you ever seen Gerald Ford with his makeup on?
Only one term though, 74, 77, still 70%. So he pardons Nixon due to the Watergate scandal. Like, oh gosh, he just put water in people's purses, man. That's so stupid. Jeez. I mean, maybe there's like more to than meets the eye with the Watergate scandal. So the Vietnam War ended around this term. Interesting, he defeated Ronald Reagan. I kind of like that. For Ford. And good old Jimmy Carter after Ford. And of course, he was like the most humanitarian president ever to visit good countries in the East. A Habitat for Humanity kind of guy. He's good. Rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. He lived a good legacy. At the age of 100. Wow. So who's up? Bernie Sanders is still a senator at the age of... Yo, Bernie Sanders is 83 years old. Born when Pearl Harbor happened. Oh my god. Well, even before that. This is before Pearl Harbor actually happened around that time. Fuck, dude. So Joe Biden is technically second in age. But Nancy Pelosi, 85 years old? You gotta be fucking kidding me. Holy crap. All I know is that like if Nancy Pelosi needs to stop trading, I think AOC can actually call her out on it to make sure that nobody in Congress can trade stocks and do it all over again as they should not be. Yeah, we don't need to know much about Ronald Reagan because in the beginning of his presidency, he decided to reduce the marginal income tax rate all the way down to 50% to, oh god, 28%. That's like the lowest of it all. Holy shit. Oh my god. I don't know who are the billionaires at the time, but we can discover it right away. I've been thinking like, what type of billionaires existed at the time that probably have contributed to the United States wealth tax if they were affected by those? But thanks to FDR's 2 taxes that we have seen in the video earlier, it's safe to say that I think they need to follow those tax laws according to that. In this day and age, I think Trump and administration and any type of billionaire in 2025 are evading such taxes. Billionaires are finding ways to like evade the IRS, but we could still find out the reasons why by looking deeper and deeper into this issue. 1980s, who is this guy? Yoshiaki Tsutsumi, which is this dude, Seibu Corporation. And of course Sam Walton, Sam's Club, Walmart, oh god. The Walton family. Those are the dudes who made this much money. But yeah, this graph that I'm looking at is made by Madison Trust Company. You guys can look it up on your own time and see how much these billionaires have made during those times before 2023. Well, you know what's interesting? How does a billionaire like to invest? Here's what we call a self-directed IRA. We know the traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. You invest publicly, trade products, stocks, bonds, and I think the only difference in Roth IRAs is that you invest more than just a traditional IRA. So if you were to invest $7,500 in the next year, a Roth IRA will actually ask you to invest even more than that, maybe like $8,000, $8,500, depending on the year and depending on the investment company that you choose to abide by. So for those of you who are thinking about like speculative risk, speculative riches, understand that like you're essentially gambling with your money as you invest and like choosing your stocks and bonds this way and mutual funds. You're going to have, aside from the chaotic descent of like the markets right now, I don't know what type of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds relate to you as the investor. And if you hope that politics does not affect you, you might want to think twice about like what are you investing lately, because you might need to learn how to discipline yourself to hold, or think about like why did you invest in the first place, because those are your problems and not even mine. If you already have over $100,000 already invested in your IRA, and then your cumulative returns are already just as high as they are, then why the hell do you worry about that shit? If you are over $100,000, do you have to worry about this now? Because those are your assets, those are your numbers, and you need some clarity to have some good sustainability in order for you to still be on your way, be on the lookout for what comes next, I guess. Sure, you can take care of your family, and you can do like little fun things as markets go volatile. You're in no control of the volatile market. Only the companies do, I guess. However, like the presidencies impact or influence the market, that is a giant to discuss for another time. So, but let's move on to like a different topic. Tariffs. Tariffs are another thing, in which case, like, we already saw the definition of what it is. But come on, a tariff, a product imported from foreign countries. If China had your US products, I'm sure that China will have like good numbers to infiltrate Donald Trump's 5-year-old brain, who doesn't understand what he's going to do to retaliate themselves. But many of the countries that are surrounding the United States right now is laughing at his ass for actually winning against Donald Trump. The auditor deal doesn't sound very good when it comes to tariffs at all. In a normal, everyday person perspective of a guy like me who understands like computer hardware, I think it depends on what type of materials that you're getting from. And especially like if you want to build a computer on your own. There's this one guy that I subscribe to, Steve Burke, Gamers Nexus. He has a 3-hour long documentary that I have fortunately come across, and I'm gonna leave you with this segment, so I hope you enjoy this.
Why don't you just make it in America?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
There are reasons. These costs are insane. Mm-hmm. It's still cheaper than if we tried to make it in America. And now the costs of making it in America carry additional non-monetary costs. Mm-hmm. Organization, timing, all these types of things. I would love to be able to make the products that we sell in each country in the respective country. But the reality is the structuring of the global economy to manufacture goods has gone in one direction the entire modern era. And even just to try to pivot outside of China to reduce the pain, where there is actually already manufacturing that has been happening. Far more manufacturing has been happening in Thailand, in Vietnam, and in India than in America. And that change is very difficult. I can't see it happening for all of our products inside the next 15 years. There is an incentive to just not be in China. That's the communication I'm getting from the current administration. So we're going to try to move out of China to Thailand or Vietnam, which comes with its own associated risks. As of right now, the initial cost estimates of just the inefficiency of manufacturing outside of China, it's an extra 30 to 40% on top of the cost. The workers may not be as skilled, you may not be able to reliably get materials, the machines may be at capacity, so you may not be able to get production space. There are all these additional costs, and that's in nations that are already somewhat prepared to absorb this manufacturing excess. America is so far away from being able to take our business, it's not viable. It's like telling someone to go get food in a place that won't have food in 5 years. Like, it could have food when you till the soil and you grow it and you get it ready to be able to benefit. But that you have to understand that takes time and that takes effort.
So if you ship something to the US and somebody has to pay that, so maybe that's the retailer buying the pallet has to pay it, whether or not you agree to compensate them, whatever, but is that the end of the story? Retailer pays the tariff?
No, it's the consumer that pays for it, you know. It's that's what people maybe don't want to hear, but in the end, if we ship it to the company that's importing it to the US, they will have to pay for the tariff and they will have to move on or move forward this cost to the customer. There is no other way. I mean, I can't imagine, because we also know what kind of margin the shop has, right? Most shops also have a similar margin to what we have. They might have, I don't know, 20, 30, 40% margin. And if they have to get rid of 25% of that, it just wouldn't make sense to stay in operation.
If there's a tariff on an item where maybe it's something where this larger blanket number applies, day to day, 125, 170, 104%, whatever.
Right.
If that item is, let's say, 50% steel or aluminum and 50% plastic, how does that sort of reconcile or calculate?
Yeah, so actually we got the final instructions from CBP this morning, so I'm glad you asked this question. So let's just assume that you have a computer case, right? Half plastic, half aluminum. So 50% of that, let's say the computer case itself is worth $100, right? That's your entered value. So $50 of that computer case will be taxed that 170%.
Okay.
The other half will be taxed, it'll be 70%. Because steel and aluminum tariff, if your product is affected by steel and aluminum tariffs, you are exempt from that 125.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, but, I mean, your explanation does. What happens if a manufacturer hits a point where the items ship, and with the current tariffs, they say this is actually no longer worth even bringing to the country?
Yeah, it's not viable to have it, to like even bring it in anymore, right?
Right, so if you're, let's just say it's in the middle of the Pacific right now. What are your different options?
I would recommend that we ship that container back. We don't even let it get out of the port or anything. Just export it back to your manufacturer. Talk to your manufacturer and say, hey, look, I already paid for this. That's why it's on the boat halfway here. I paid for this, but you know what situation is going on right now. You know that this is gonna kill me if, let's just say a $30 million container, you really think that someone has another $35 million just to put up front to bring it in before you even sell it? It doesn't. You can't operate a business like that. The second option I would, recommend, it's called a foreign trade zone. So this is like a third-party logistics warehouse. It operates just like any other warehouse, but they're special because you don't actually have to clear customs to bring your product into the state and into their facility, and you pay duties as you start withdrawing the units
interesting. Okay.
out of the warehouse.
It's almost like a bank, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
it's almost like, we're going to have it physically in the U.S., but to customs, it hasn't officially entered.
It's a
the
foreign.
It's a foreign area.
Okay.
Kind of like Terminal 1 at like the airport or something.
Right.
Like once you get to that point, you got all these duty-free stores, whatever. All these like foreigners, just like all in the same place. It's kind of like that vibe where.
So basically, you store your $30 million of GPUs in this place because you don't have another $30 million to import it all.
Yeah.
You pull your whatever pallet at a time.
Yeah, one pallet at a time. You pay the duties for that pallet, that single pallet.
What is? There's got to be a catch or a cost.
Yeah. Those warehouses are extremely expensive.
Okay. All right.
They are like their normal rate is about 2 to 3 times more than a normal like third-party logistics warehouse that you could just find anywhere in like Southern California. They're really expensive, but it's the fact that they're certified by CBP that gives them the ability to do that. And I bring up GPUs, $30 million is a lot because the type of clients that they cater to are like billion-dollar corporations, HP Pavilion, Asus, all like the laptop company like Toshiba. They love those guys because that's what they do. They bring their laptops in. They can't pay for it yet, or they don't want to pay for it yet just because of the cash flow issue. So they'll just slowly pay for it.
Right. Will they go back through your prior imports?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the caveat on top is that they will actually, in my opinion, this is not official. They'll flag your company, and every single container you have coming in, you're gonna get examined. And each exam, minimum is about like $700 to $1,000 per container.
What kind of response are you seeing from your clients right now? I mean, are people panicking or what?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of panic, a lot of me just trying to calm people down and just saying like, hey, look, I'm receiving the news the same time as you. I will wait for the official notice from customs to come in first, and then afterwards we'll deal with it. But since he announced that all the other countries will only get taxed 10% now, I suspect that there might be a shipping frenzy just because people who are not in China might want to get their stuff out.
Okay.
Because they're going to save a bunch.
If let's say tomorrow, let's say you have a client whose shipment arrives today, they pay the highest possible tariff from China. Yeah. Tomorrow, the White House comes out and says, JK, LOL, and cancels all of them. Yeah,
you guys fell for it.
Yeah. If you're the guy who just paid the 170%, it feels bad. Can you do anything?
Yeah, so I would tell, if that had happened to one of my client shipments, straight up, I would start a process called a post-summary correction. Yeah. Which is, it's there because like sometimes, like when you receive like cargo from overseas, sometimes the documents don't match what's physically there. Right. Maybe you're missing like 5 to 10 pieces, but you paid duties on those extra 5 to 10 pieces. It's not right. You shouldn't pay for something that you don't have, right? So that's why that is in place. So you could correct, your duty invoice. So I would encourage all my clients to do that and revise it. So now the invoice date has been adjusted, and those tariffs, in theory and in concept, should not apply anymore because now it's a new day.
And this is a legal avenue?
Yes. Okay. Yes. In the second week of March, I had one of my client shipments come in, and this was right before the 20% happened. We sent him the invoice, the duty invoice, to confirm and like pay it off on sometime in February, right? And he waited a week, right? And then after that week, the 20% became effective. So when we try to submit, our duty invoice without the 20%, it was rejected.
Right. So but the original invoice date was. Who do you think ultimately pays the tariffs? Because this is a misconception I've seen a lot too.
The customer. So if I were to steelman Trump's argument when he says that China would pay the tariff, to give the devil their due, his idea is that when it costs me an additional $100 to import something, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Chinese vendor and say, you need to lower your price $100 because I'm paying more. That doesn't work. I can't walk up to somebody and say, like, I can't buy something from you and say, I live in New York and I pay 10% more tax than you, so you have to give me a 10% discount.
Right.
You're going to tell me to go fuck myself, and rightfully so. That's a me problem. That's not a you problem. So with Trump, I imagine, I don't think he's as stupid the way people are saying, where he doesn't know how a tariff works. I think he's doing this roundabout thing where what he's saying is, you're a crappy salesperson and business person for not being able to get them to lower their prices. And I understand that argument. I don't agree with that argument, because the person in China is going to say, this has higher performance than the pay station that costs $1,600 to $1,800. It has bent nozzles, which that doesn't come with. It has better performance. It heats up faster. Your alternative is $1,600. So if you want us to lower our price because your president has done this, like, gargle my balls. They're not good. They know. They're never going to lower their price. And when Trump started talking about this, he has been very consistent. He's been talking about at least the craziness of the politics. He's been consistent since the late 80s. In the late 80s, he was talking about how Japan and VCRs and everything else. But back then, a VCR from Japan versus a VCR in America, we're talking about a price difference of like 10 or 30%. There was some, you could
close the gap.
You could close the gap with a tariff. Now, you could argue whether that's the right thing to do or not. I personally wouldn't do it, but there's an argument to be made both ways. Here, when this I can sell for $200, and the other unit is $1,600 to $1,800, even a 100% tariff, it's not going to change anybody's behavior. Right. Now, let's say it did change behavior. It takes anywhere from 2 to 3 years to even start tooling a lot of the factories in the United States to get this done. And 2 to 3 years from now, the tariff may not be there. So you're going to do all this onshoring, and you're going to build all this infrastructure to try and do things here for a policy that may actually not even be here several years from now. So I don't think this is the right way to get things onshored. I think it's a national sales tax.
Bring it back to the U.S.
Well, they are. They are. You can buy a pace for $1,600, $1,800. Would you like to buy one? Oh, you don't. You're the one who bitches every time I raise the price by $20. Well, fuck you. I mean, seriously. Every single one of the individual... You can buy it, but you choose not to.
That was the most New York fuck you I've ever seen.
You choose not to. The same motherfucker that says that when they walk into a repair shop that's $65 and the guy down the street working in a fucking Western Union or a juice place says it's $55 is gonna bitch that you charge $10 more. Every single person that says that shit, I guarantee you're gonna see all the wars in the comments. Of course I pay extra. No, you fucking wouldn't. I know, because I've spoken to people like this for 15 years. If somebody has to pay $1,600 to $1,800 for a tool that is less effective, not a bad tool, I'd use it, but less effective than a tool that's $200, that is going to be reflected in their prices. And it's not just one tool. We're talking about the ability for anybody to even get started here. I mean, one of the main primary people that was a protege of mine, he started doing this when he was 16 years old. Now, if you take every single tool in that chain and you multiply the cost by 6 to 15 times, do you think a 16-year-old kid that's making minimum wage working at Kava or something is going to be able to actually get started doing this? No way. If you take the startup cost of building a business like this, if you take that initial investment from $2,000 and you make it $20,000 for all these different little tools and things you need, you have now made it so that only a small number of people will be able to do that particular job. Right. And once you have a small number of people that do the job, now they can raise the price because there's less competition. You're making it more and more difficult for people to break into this, which ironically is one of the reasons that you see China making all this stuff to begin with. I mean, there are kids in China that are taking iPhone 7s in the street and putting headphone jacks in them, like what you see with Strange Parts. You don't see that being done here. And if you want to take the cost of tools like this and you want to raise them by 8 or 20x, you're gonna see even less of that here than you get right now.
Now, if you live in a red district, but you live in a blue state, and you really want to fix or hopefully make things right for not only you, but with your friends and family, you have your set of issues. You know, Medicaid's in danger, Social Security is in danger, but also you have like your housing costs might be a problem, and you have your normal everyday necessities are in danger and they're expensive. There are Congress people in districts that don't even show up to town halls, kind of like mine, but like I'll let you look at these to judge for yourself and see like if you think this person is a Chad or not, but I don't think so. The first time I met him at my grocery store, he doesn't look very good in a pink shirt while his face is so red. Probably because like that was like a very hot July 4th who is tending to his constituents at the time, but this was like last year. But I don't think he has any like good narratives of groceries and tariffs at this point, but I don't see why he should be able to serve another term because he's been there for like 32 years long. But I have dug through the most interesting dirty secrets that like people probably know already, but like in great detail. So okay, there is an update. Most corrupt FBI investigations. Of course, Donald Trump endorsed him. That is too obvious. Yes, he's pro-life. God, all these updates in the entire packet is so jarring that I don't know if you guys want a copy of this, but I'm sure I could hopefully leave this in the description below. Jesus. Oh, these are just basically attacks. My God. This is what he does to keep himself in office. He's a Russian. Oh, okay. No. Alright. There is this original police report document about his sexual allegations with a prostitute. Laura Lorena Lindbergh. Oh. You know, I don't know if I care about my dignity enough to look her up, though. Dude, if you're gonna fuck a prostitute in her mouth, dude, at least pay her, man. That's so indecent for you to not, like, give her any money. This ain't fucking you, dude. Man, some politicians are fucking awkward as hell, man. If you're gonna support a sex worker, at least be discreet about it. Jesus. Seriously, Ken Calvert, what the fuck, man? If you're gonna fuck her in the mouth, then, dude, you have no idea how to be discreet and all that shit. You didn't pay her. You have no idea where the fuck your dignity is. And you're trying to stay in Congress for, look, who knows how many terms you want to actually serve while having your ex-wife talk about you, whoever the fuck she is. I suspect that even as I'm making this video, you're probably going to have some excuses to look for more women to get yourself out of reality, so that apparently, like, you can be obsessed and try to, like, fight your depression. Just because your obesity and your depression are, like, the factors in your personal life does not mean that you can fuck prostitutes at your own leisure. It is disgusting, man. If you want to run another campaign full of attacks, and all the history has been revealed, I see it in a reflection of your vote against women. You like to violate women on your own free will without any reservation or anything else for that matter, that hopefully you can keep anything a secret, but not in the hands of your own police department, man. It's stupid. I don't know why some MAGA bros that are Gen Z really like to praise this guy, but I'm not gonna digress anymore because I don't know what the hell you guys are thinking for voting for this guy as our congressperson for our district. It's time for a change, man. I've been to 2 town halls in the same month, but all Ken Calvert is doing is just like asking for money to attend his breakfast halls or something, but they're really not town halls. You could probably find it on X because that's what the GOP uses now, but thanks to Indivisible Riverside, they have like signs waiting for him as soon as he was like exiting.
Please help me and give her a warm CA41 welcome. Woo!
My name is Congressmember Nanette Barragán. So what am I doing here? This is in my district, right? I represent the Port of Los Angeles. I represent San Pedro and a chunk of Long Beach and Southgate. On Monday night, I had a town hall in my district, which is in Southgate, California, about 95% Latino. Generally, we get about 50 people that will turn out for a town hall. We had almost 300 people turn out. That's what we're seeing happening right now. And so we said, you know, every person, every constituent has the ability, or should have the ability, to hear from their congressperson. Have y'all heard from your congressperson right here in the 41st district? No. That's why we partnered up with Senator Cervantes to say, hey, we want to make sure your constituents are heard. We want to make sure the constituents in the 41st district are heard. You know why? Because Ken Calvert is too afraid to hold an in-person town hall.
We're talking about the impacts to Medicaid. Now I'm going to tell you the direct impacts in CA41 in Ken Calvert's district. 308,000 of his constituents would be impacted by cuts for Medicaid. 259,000 health coverage for workers, people with disabilities, children, and seniors. 121, they get food stamps through CalFresh. 40,000 new mothers getting formula through programs like WIC. How many of us know individuals or have used WIC ourselves? and 15,000 people receiving support to live in their homes through IHSS, as well as 1,695 foster youth that would see these impacts directly affecting them.
I know what we can do to help. And so that's part of what we're here today to do. So this week, House Democrats are going across the country into their districts, and some of us are going to other districts. And right now, they're so afraid, they wait until Donald Trump will tell them what to do. But let's talk about today about some of these things that they're doing. Number one, Republican leadership has told their members not to hold town halls. You know why? Because what they're doing is not popular. Even in Republican districts, and we are in a Republican district right now, almost half of children are on Medicaid. Now, people say, well, Medicaid, what's Medicaid? Medicaid, we call it Medi-Cal here in California. And what it is health care. It's access to health care for people. Your values are what you put in a budget. That budget will require cuts in Medicaid, but it will also require cuts in food stamps. You might know it's EBT, you've maybe seen a sign about EBT cards. These are people who get assistance to get groceries every month. And this is another area they're looking to cut. And so does anybody here know somebody who is on food stamps or gets some assistance? A lot of us. Sometimes it's families that have kids. We don't want them to go hungry. We want them to actually be fed before they go to school so they can concentrate on their schoolwork instead of being hungry. So these are the types of benefits that are at stake. So can you all guess how Ken Calvert voted on that vote last week? Do you think he did the right thing? No. Do you think he voted against that? No. You're right, he did not. 6 in 10 people in nursing homes get Medicaid, and nearly 1 in 4 adults also do. Here in Ken Calvert's district, 238,000 people alone rely upon Medicaid. And get this, there's a couple Republicans who decided to sign a letter. A letter that went to Speaker Johnson to say, hey, we want to make sure that the most vulnerable people in Medicaid don't get their Medicaid deducted or at stake, and we don't want you to touch their Medicaid. 12 Republicans. Do you think Ken Calvert was one of the 12 Republicans that signed on to that letter? You betcha he hell was not. He decided not to get onto a letter that said something so basic as saying, don't touch Medicaid for the most vulnerable people. That's the kind of congressperson that you have here, and that is the truth about what's going on.
Go see Ken Calvert in 2 weeks when I go back to the House. I'm going to go up to him. I'm going to tell him I had a town hall in his district, and I'm going to tell him, you know what? This is a message from your constituent. I'm going to do that. All right? All right. Go ahead and divorce.
Well, I would ask him, why don't you ever answer any of my emails? I've sent over the past 5-6 years. Yes. He has not responded to one.
That is insane. Okay, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican in my district, I represent everybody. And you send me an email or a letter, I'm going to respond to it. You may not like what the response is because I may disagree with you on an issue, but I'm going to respond to you. By the way, if you're a constituent of my district and you come to Washington and I know you're a constituent, I'm going to meet with you. Or I'll do it in the district. I believe that you deserve to be heard. Your question, or let me read your question, maybe I'll help trigger your memory here. How will you help protect Medicaid for my mother-in-law, wife, and I?
Yeah, my mother-in-law is 83 years old and she depends on Medicaid. And if she doesn't have it, I'm afraid she's actually going to pass away. Yeah. And so we're definitely afraid of that happening. So we want to know, what can we do?
Well, thank you for sharing your story, because as I mentioned as well, my mom's 84 and she relies on Medicaid. And I do believe that without it, she will have a much quicker demise, and that the services that she gets really helps. So I can understand, and I totally agree that we have to do everything we can to fight any cuts to Medicaid. How do we do it? First of all, just to remind everybody, House Democrats are in the minority.
My name's Lisa. I'm from Riverside.
Hi, Lisa.
I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh.
and I grew up most of my life in southern Indiana. I ran the elections board there, and I'm a Democrat, so imagine that. I'm lucky.
Well, even if you're a Republican, we welcome everybody here today.
Yeah. So the reason I moved to California was because my husband and I sat in a hospital room, and the doctor told me I was dying. He told me that to live a little longer, move to a dry climate, and hopefully you'll live out the rest of what few years you have left breathing better.
Well, I'm glad you're here with us today.
I'm not stopping my fight. I've been an activist since I was 13 years old. When a man told me I could do something, I told him yes, you are. That's right. You tell him. So, I've been at all these protests. I have been to places. This is actually my first time home because I didn't know about it until the last minute. I've been in politics or involved in politics since I was 13. I started activism in women's rights, civil rights, and human rights. So I know about everything that's going on. I stay up when my husband says I'm obsessed. I was like, well, usually you are when everything's been taken away from you. So, sorry, I wrote it down because that's okay. Sometimes my brain doesn't work so well with some of my medications. So, we know that all Democrats' hands pretty much are tied at the moment. We also know that if we get to the 2026 midterms, Democrats will take back the House and the majority in the Senate. And the majority in the White House.
I hope you're right about that. We gotta go do the work. Don't take it for granted. Go do the work.
I want to be around to see it. We want everything fixed and many held accountable for the crap they put us through and the crimes they have broken before Democrats start going down the bipartisan road, which they have done a lot of in the past, because they assume that the Republicans are going to work with them. Because once the Republicans are out of power, what do? Well, let's talk. Not anymore. Bipartisan doesn't work when only one side comes to the table. The GOP only wants bipartisanship when they aren't in power, and they're getting paid to protest any different than paying someone for their vote. Never mind, I know that answer, this is Ken Calvert, by the way, it's not illegal to protest. Are you people going to arrest Elon Musk and Doge and freeze their assets for violating our constitutional rights and stealing our data? And for the final one, for the market manipulation and insider trading scam of last week. Who profited from it, and what are we going to do about it? We want to know so we can see those people in 2026.
So we're going to take all your questions and we're going to ask Ken Calvert those questions. I can guarantee you, though, he's already said he's standing with Elon Musk because it's in writing. That's the nuts part. But we will take your questions back. Thank you for standing up, for speaking out, for everything you do, and for not giving up the fight.
Calm down. Everything's going to be fine. Give it 90 days. All right. So please remind him 90 days has come as of April 20th, and things are not fine, and we are not going to calm down. Thank you.
Deliver the message to another member about what their constituents are saying. So thank you. We're going to make sure to do that. Pell Grant's so important. It's 90 days. It's been very hard and a lot of anxiety.
This next candidate, even after, I know it's painful for Will Rollins to lose twice against Ken Calvert. I'm sure he's doing fine because he's studying law now. There are people out there who would like to see justice done, and especially after losing against a veteran congressperson like Ken Calvert. Everyone in the district needs to find their own issues, go and attack his ambiguity. I'd rather have more normal everyday people confront to his face to make sure that if he's doing his job, and if he's not, it's up to you to vote for someone else. There is a candidate already, and his name is Brandon Riker. Brandon Riker is running to be the next congressperson for California District 41. I'm getting a good vibe with him because his mom, Barbara, shout out to Barbara for seeing this Bernie shirt right here. I do appreciate that. If anything comes across, I'm sure that like people who would understand what the issues are now, you better constructively critique Brandon Riker because he helped out with the Obama campaign. Here it is. This is what he looks like. It's this dude right here. And I'm sure you can read all that little quote up there on top. And if you want to, you can consider donating. Brandon understands what you're experiencing. So if you're going to constructively critique or attempting to destructively critique Brandon Riker, this is your chance. Follow his accounts, whether if it's on X or Blue Sky or anything else that you may come across of him. You might want to pay attention to every town hall that he goes to because Ken Calvert's not going to be with you at this point. If you trust Ken Calvert but is not there for you, you might as well go to a different person to talk to. You can challenge him, but he'll tell you the truth straight out. So whatever issues you think you may have, I would rather have you challenge Brandon Riker because he's making his rounds around the district.
I'm excited to be here to kick off my campaign. My name is Brandon Riker and I will be the next congressman. A little bit about myself. I'm a fourth-generation Californian. I'm an economist. I'm a businessman. I'm a former Obama staffer. I was born in the San Francisco Bay Area. We moved around a lot when I was a kid. In 2007, I was given an opportunity to go work for then a very young senator from the state of Illinois on his first president, the first presidential campaign, he won, but Barack Obama. And I spent a year and a half organizing on that campaign. I started knocking on doors in New Hampshire. We've done 39 plus listening events, and two things have become very clear. The first is, it's time for change. People have told me everywhere I am that they're scared about losing their Medicaid and Medicare, which 36% of this district relies on. Over 260,000 of our neighbors and friends get it through the Inland Empire Health Plan. Molina covered California. We know that we have seniors. As Tammy said, we're not doing East Side, West Side, we're one district. We have seniors in Corona, we have seniors in the desert who are scared about losing their Social Security. And even if the benefits themselves aren't cut, if locations are closed, if people are not able to answer the phones, if things are forced online, the benefits will inevitably be cut because you won't have access to it. A trade policy that makes zero sense. I'm an economist, and I can tell you, it's deeply unserious. All we need to do is talk to our representatives, right? That's what we hear over and over again. However, Ken Calvert hasn't done a public town hall like this since 2007. Right? It's been a long time. So I promise you, no matter how I vote, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I will always be here. This is a hub, right? But we need to make sure the jobs are here and in the communities across the Inland Empire so people don't have to spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day in a car. Some people who hear the word tariff and they get excited because they're like, I've lost my job. And so there are times where tariffs make sense, but we can't have a trade policy that is built on a lie. This isn't just about flipping the seat, which is important, but to flip the seat, if we flip the seat, we hold Donald Trump accountable.
Yes.
As critical as it is to hold Donald Trump accountable in the next 2 years, right, in 2026, when we win back the House, in 2028, we need to hold this seat. Because we need to start undoing the pain and the cruelty of this administration. So tonight I'm asking for your vote, I'm asking for your support, I'm asking for you to volunteer, because now is not the time to sit on the sidelines. Now is not the time to put our head in the sand and think someone else will step up for us. It is time that we do the hard work of change making, that we do the work that is required to bring our country back to where it needs to go, and that we defeat Ken Calvert and hold Donald Trump accountable. showing how important this city is to the district. It is the largest city in the district, and I'm going to be here all the time. We've got to get serious about raising wages, because, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit, so if I sound a little bit like an economics professor, I apologize, but here's the problem with it, right? We talk about we need to grow the slice of the pie for the working class, right? We hear that over and over again. The problem is the slice of the pie is getting bigger, but the pie is getting bigger faster than the slice for the working classes, right? So we've got to come up with ways through taxes. We've got to come up with ways through making sure people aren't taking on medical debt, that they aren't taking on student debt, that they have a job when they graduate high school, right? We need to make sure that the ratio, the piece of the pie, gets bigger when the pie stays the same, and that working class people get their fair, what they've worked for in their fair shot. And that also comes with protecting Social Security and retirement. Because fundamentally, in this country now, most of us don't have pensions, right? Most of us are gonna rely on Social Security, and we're gonna rely on 401ks. And that's the deal. That's the deal that this country has struck. We need to make sure that we're protecting the social safety nets so people don't end up on the street. There is no other way to find $800 billion in the budget to partially fund Donald Trump's billionaire friends' tax cuts, unless they cut Medicaid, right? And Ken Calvert has said publicly, I'm not going to vote to cut Medicaid. But the question is, then what are you going to cut? Where do you find the $800 billion? And the answer is, it doesn't exist, right? It's just not there. And he didn't sign the letter that 12 other Republicans signed that said, I will not vote for the Trump tax cuts if it affects Medicaid and Medicare funding. He refused to sign it. So we know what he's saying, but we also know what he's doing, which is voting to cut it. So we've got to protect Medicare and Medicaid. We also have to expand the ACH, right? I spent a long time organizing for the Obama campaign, making sure that the Affordable Care Act could become law, so everyone would have the chance to get high quality health care. But we've got to expand it to make sure that everyone can afford high quality health care and that they don't go into medical debt and they're able to stay working, because right now people aren't going to the doctor for preventive care because their deductibles are too high, right? Their co-payments are too high. They're not able to get the care they need.
Last but not least, keep on protesting. That's all I can say. The race for governor cannot be here soon enough. I've talked to at least one person. I know I used the drone and it's cool to use it, but there was another drone that was in use, and I think like some of the people were a little concerned about whose other drone is that because the color was different. Mine was great, but apparently this other drone was brown. I don't know the model, I don't know the name of it, I don't know who makes that brown drone. My impression is like there are police officers who would observe using drones as well to observe and view from above so that no other riots can go all out. And I think they had to run it with Chad Bianco because that was an op that he did, and he wanted to get into it because he claims that like there were no peaceful protesting, it was just violence. Riverside is fully aware that they would not vote for Chad Bianco, given that he is a former oath keeper, and there will be other better candidates than Chad Bianco to run for governor in 2026. Midterms cannot be here soon enough, and I hope that like people can actually pay attention to what the issues they have at hand, apart from the madness and the insanity that we all face here in the nation. California is a blue state, and we know that it's the 4th largest booming economy in the world, beating Japan. The state is a donating state that goes back to the government, the federal government, but there are different states who just don't want to donate and then just takes it for themselves, which is kind of greedy on their part, like Texas. I don't know what the hell like the state and local governments in Texas want to do with the money for themselves that they are now assisting their Texans. Again, a different topic for another time, and I know it's getting late, and I wish I could do more discourse and do more research on that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for dealing with my a little hoarse voice, and I think I'm a little under the weather at the moment because there was a little bit of rain the past few days. Seattle was like raining down on us for like 10 minutes. It's the middle of the night and I need to get some sleep, get up, and do it all over again the next morning. So thank you guys for watching or listening to wherever you are. See you in the next episode. Peace.